promises, but we want to amplify progressive perspectives that are community-focused and solution-oriented. So go to KBLA1580.com right now to download all the information you need about our guest editorials. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
KBLA Talk 1580. It is time for Freedmen Friday. This is where we talk about reparations, tracking progress, and being part of the solution, being part of the momentum. Even in the second Trump term, there still is a lot of momentum going on this issue, and I'm hoping that it will stay that way, regardless of all of the other crazy things that are happening, including moves that appear to outlaw anything furthering, helping, supplementing, creating scholarships for, creating business opportunities for Black people. We are being joined this morning by the policy advocate for Black Lives Matter, California. She is also an organizer with BLM LA, and she is working on some things in terms of Black Lives Matter. You may not know that reparations is one of the things they advocate for. Sheila Bates, good morning.
Good morning, Sister Dominique. How are you doing today?
I'm blessed. Happy Mercury retrograde. We're having some communication issues on a communications platform, but we're keeping it pushing.
That's right.
Yeah. So first of all, talk to me about why, when we think of Black Lives Matter, we think of a focus on ending state-sanctioned violence, on police murders of people like Jabari Peoples and Waukesha Wilson. Why is reparations part of Black Lives Matter's list of issues?
That's a great question, and thank you for having us on the show. This is an important issue for Black Lives Matter because when we talk about ending state-sanctioned violence, we do so from an abolitionist standpoint. And as abolitionists, we believe in tearing down systems of harm that include things like policing and prisons, but it also includes building up systems of care. And we recognize that in order to end violence in all of its forms, that people need to be able to have the ability to get all of their needs met. And we know that one of the barriers for Black folks is financial, and that's not because of anything that we've done, but it's because of the fact that the state has robbed us of the ability to have full access to all of what we can do because of slavery. And we know that there's a through line that exists between policing and slavery, right? We know that policing hail from slave catchers. So if we address the harms that were done initially, right, through slavery and the harms that continue to be done today, that creates a more holistic approach to be able to actually address our problems and actually can, put us on equal footing that we've been robbed from being able to do for centuries.
Yeah, so it's on the building side, the ancient African saying, are you going to build or are you going to destroy? It's on the building side as far as Black Lives Matter's agenda goes, not just fighting back against the harm, but also on what we can build.
That's right. And it's a debt that's owed, right? Reparations is something that's owed to our people because of a continued legacy of harm that started when they stole our ancestors from the shores of Africa.
It's one of the things that, we've gotten into, and you and I have talked about this off the microphone, is how we define reparations. We know the UN has a definition which is widely used, and that the California Reparations Task Force, in their rather comprehensive report, laid out not just how they're defining reparations, but areas of work that need to be done. And yet, when we talk about actual programs or policies, there still continues to be argument about what constitutes reparations and what does not.
That's right. And, there's, a list of recommendations, as you were speaking of, that came from the California Reparations Task Force. And that was a really broad sweeping. And we support a lot of those programs and policies. And we are supportive of reparations, not only in terms of programs, but also in run us a check, right? And reparations can look like a lot of things, and we're open to all of those things, but it also includes run us a check. One of those recommendations that came out from the California Reparations Task Force was around single-payer healthcare. We supported single-payer healthcare in the state of California through CalCare for the last 3 years, and we continue to do so. That is a recommendation that's absolutely necessary because of medical apartheid that has a legacy of harm for Black folks for centuries, and that we see the devastating effects of that still to this day. And one way to redress that is not only to make it so that people have access to health care, right, through CalCare, and it's free, but also that it's culturally competent and that we make sure that the harms that are still happening today don't happen anymore. It includes the fact that Assemblymember Isaac Bryan's bill that is programmatic of AB 7 that allows for preferential admission for people who are descendants of those who were enslaved. That is getting at some of the harm, but it is arguable, depending on who it is, right, of whether or not that is actual reparations. But we are supportive of AB 7, and we are sponsors of AB 7, and we were really glad to see that it just made it through Senate Judiciary, and that it is on its way to Senate Appropriations, and then the Senate floor, and then to the governor's desk. And we do hope that when it gets there, speaking in affirmative terms, that the governor will sign the bill.
So AB 7 is a perfect example of what I was talking about, which is that is part of the California Legislative Black Caucus package known as the Road to Repair, which included a bunch of bills under the umbrella of, although they don't explicitly say reparations, Road to Repair is reparations. It's part 2 of what they started last session. And, the terrible controversy, the problems that we saw happening when the caucus turned away from its own bills and created a nightmare in the community that they really did not need to create, in which I would say squandered an opportunity to possibly get some things done. However, they've moved on. They've come back with this Road to Repair. And one of the things in Road to Repair is AB 7. That's what you were referring to. This is Isaac Bryan's bill, which would give priority admission to descendants of slaves in California at certain universities, right? And some folks, a lot of people have argued on this show, and people I respect, people who are prominent reparations activists, have argued that that is not reparations. I don't agree. If it's specifically for the descendants of enslaved persons, and it is priority in education, I'm not saying that's everything that should be in reparations, but it certainly falls within the guidelines of what the task force outlined, the types of things that need to be done. And I get that it might be a waste of our time and energy to argue about whether or not it's reparations, but I think it's important that we at least consider that, because it could represent a significant victory, and we need to build on our victories.
That's right. And also, it's one of those bills that also creates a legal framework that can lay the groundwork for other things, which is incredibly important, right? Because this bill is not based on race. This bill is based on legacy, which we know is already puts us in a better place in terms of a legal standpoint. And so we know that it's likely that this bill will be challenged. And if this bill is challenged, right, and speaking in the affirmative when we win, that it goes through those legal challenges, that it's the state of California that then has to defend AB 7. And that means the full weight of California is behind defending this bill, which could then lay the groundwork for making it so that other reparations bills can be moved forward based on legacy and lineage, which is an incredibly important foundation for other things, right? And so I think that this is an important piece of legislation that does attempt to repair some of the harm that has been done in the education system, wherein that we've been locked out of opportunities for centuries. But it's important that it allows for priority admission in that way, and preferential admission in that way. And so it is something that we need to be paying attention to. And this is the reason why we did decide to not just support the bill, but we're sponsors on the bill alongside CFA, the California Faculty Association. And we're just up at the Capitol earlier this week supporting the bill, and gave me twos as BLM Los Angeles and BLM California, which includes BLM Long Beach and all of our chapters within the state of California. And we also are supporting this Black Lives Matter Grassroots as well.
Maybe the reason people feel that is because it doesn't say black in the bill. But I think it's interesting the LA Times frames it as skirting around the ban on affirmative action. And that, to me, is almost taking a position against the bill. Because if you call it affirmative action, then we already know it's illegal, according to our current law. But the whole point or not the whole point, but one of the main points of lineage-based reparations formulas is that they're not affirmative action, and that they deal with a specific group, a specific class of folks, which is not a race-based class. And that's, I'm sure, why Assemblymember Isaac Bryan is insisting that this is not a race-based bill. That he said...
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think it was, not to pass a judgment on it, but I agree with your assessment around the Los Angeles Times and their article and their assessment of the bill. And I think that's a little bit of dangerous language. And I think it's also really telling that people still don't fully grasp the fact that affirmative action played out in ways that people didn't expect, right? And maybe perhaps some of them did. But that the biggest benefactors of affirmative action have been white women. It's not Black people who were the largest beneficiaries of affirmative action. Not saying that it didn't help people, but by the sheer numbers alone, white women were the biggest benefactors of affirmative action. And that's not spoken about. And I think that is an important thing for people to bear in mind when we have some of these discussions, and that that opened the door for white women to be able to get their foot in to a lot of places and a lot of opportunities that they were not previously allowed to be in as well. And I think that, it's important for us to be really honest about how things are moving forward and the impact that it has had.
Yeah, they also found a black woman, Professor Taifa Alexander at UCLA, that they could get to speak against reparations. It's really interesting how they do the article because she says, well, it could be perceived as unfair and discriminatory under the 14th Amendment, and that, they make the case that because reparations didn't poll well with voters, that means it's not legit. But that other law changes to the law are legit because polls show them to be correct. I just want to say that you can take a poll about whether or not you think you need to pay me back. But if you owe me money, I don't care if it's popular. I need to get paid anyway. You can take a poll about whether I need to pay my mortgage, and it might end up being really unpopular, but I bet you anything, the mortgage company doesn't care what the polling says. They expect me to pay what I owe. And that is how I see polling as it references reparations. Talking with Sheila Bates.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'll get your response to that when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Yeah. At KBLA Talk 1580, we're proud to be celebrating 4 years on the air, but we know we could not have made it this far without you. We work hard every single day to curate conversations that will enlighten, encourage, and empower you. So, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, a big thank you for your love and support.
You don't know how much you mean to me.
And by the way, if your smartphone did not update automatically, be sure to download our brand new KBLA 1580 app. We think you'll love all the new features, including new ways to send us photos and video in real time, whenever news breaks, while we're on the air. It's a new dawn, a new day for KBLA Talk 1580, and we're glad you're on this journey with us.
You never turned away, you were right there. Thank you, thank you.
Oh, by the way, Ivan's no longer on the project. His wife got a new job, so they're moving across the country.
Robin's top researcher is deviating to a new market. This isn't standard.
And now we're short-staffed. Who's gonna finish all these projects?
She needs a cluster of new data analysts, and there's no margin for error.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Put our matching platform to work so you can spend less time searching and more time connecting with talented candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, Mom, I've been meaning to talk to you about some new COVID information I saw online. I read that black folks like us with certain conditions like diabetes, heart disease, mental health conditions, or being 50 and older, like you, are at high risk.
Boy, you sound like a commercial.
I'm just saying. I know you love your ginger teas and essential oils, but remember, there are treatment options for COVID-19.
I promise if I get sick again, I'll call my doctor to ask about my options.
Visit WeTalkWeRise.com to learn more. Brought to you by Pfizer.
Sometimes an identity threat is a ring of professional hackers. And sometimes it's an overworked accountant who forgot to encrypt their connection while sending bank details.
I need a coffee.
And you need LifeLock, because your info is in endless places. It only takes one mistake to expose you to identity theft. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Forbes Health, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, starting at just $98 a pair.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aid.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 1 million happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
It does, and it is a Freedmen Friday, so we're talking reparations. Sheila Bates, policy advocate for Black Lives Matter California, and organizer with BLM LA is joining me. Sheila, I was just talking about how the LA Times frames it as if the polling, which shows most Californians don't support cash payments for reparations, means that it's not legit. And you wanted to respond to that as well.
I do. I mean, I think it's hilarious that that's what they're using as the basis, when the reality is that if we look at the polling or the general feelings and sentiments of people, that would be a missed mark, because we know that the masses have not always been the best moral judgment or ethical placement of what needs to be moved in this country, nor have the laws.
Yeah.
And so it's not about what the masses think, especially when, if we're looking at just numbers alone, right, that there's a lot of white folks in there who, they don't want to see us get what is owed to us. But does that mean that it's owed to it, that it's not owed to us? Not at all. And so I don't care what the polling says. I care about what it is that my ancestors and future generations and what Black people are owed. And what Black people are owed is reparations. So run me my check, and I don't care what the polling says.
Well, yeah, and that's a good point about public opinion. I'm sure if we would have taken polling, should we abolish slavery? In 1830, right. The public would have said, oh, absolutely not, in most of the South. And then we could say, well, we must look at other forms of freeing Black people, because ending slavery is just not popular. And that's kind of really what we're talking about at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so lots of some developments going on internationally as well as here nationally. But in California, just to put a bow on what you were saying, at this point, AB 7 has gone through the Assembly, needs to go through the rest of the committees in the Senate, including appropriations, where bills go to die, and then it would go to the governor's desk.
Yes. So the next step is Senate appropriations, and then it goes to the Senate floor for their vote, and then it goes to the governor's desk. And we're really hoping that it will. We've had the bill has had I don't want to say an easy road. The bill has been successful, and that's in part because of Assemblymember Isaac Bryan's diligent work on the bill, and also because of the broad work that has been done by the coalition that includes partners like Black Lives Matter California, the California Faculty Association, SJLI, right, as well as the Alliance for Boys and Men of Color, and $1 Million Hoods has been throwing down on it, and really trying to make sure that this bill goes to the governor's desk and makes it to become law after that.
Yeah, we shall see. At least make the governor, be clear on where he stands. That's the mistake they made in, last year. They did his dirty work for him. And my understanding is that the reincarnation of the push to end forced servitude in our prisons here in California has died before getting out of the Assembly this time.
Yes. We've tried this bill a few times. Folks have tried this bill a few times, and unfortunately it's been unsuccessful in the past, which I really think speaks volumes as to where we are, not only as a state, but as a country. If we can't even do that, which is the bare minimum, right? I'm deeply concerned about where we're going. I remain hopeful and will continue to do the work, and I'm deeply disappointed because that is absolutely necessary to make sure that we just end this. The fact that this is still allowed in the Constitution is deeply problematic and troublesome. And I know that there's another bill that's moving forward around, that's also Assemblymember Isaac Bryan's bill, around incarcerated firefighters, and to make sure that they're able to get equal pay.
But that's I wouldn't call that reparations, but yeah, you're right.
Not at all.
I mean, it's because it applies to all firefighters. But I mean, the fact that, and I guess that's true for the prison labor too, even though that comes out of the recommendations of the California Task Force. But Colorado banned it, Alabama,
mm-hmm.
Tennessee,
mm-hmm.
and Oregon, which I learned last year was actually one of the strongholds of white supremacists and KKK movements. They have all banned it, but California, the supposedly liberal state, has had 4 fails on that, and hopefully it'll come back. I want to look at what's happening in your thoughts. Some really interesting movement around reparations. France saying now inching towards possibly looking at reparations for Niger, and the CARICOM leaders backing up Jamaica in their petition to King Charles. So there's movement afoot, not just in this country, but around the world. We're talking reparations. It's Freedmen Friday, and this is KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Protesters rallied Thursday in Good Trouble Lives On marches honoring civil rights icon John Lewis. Kim Combs of Grand Rapids, Michigan was among those who took part.
There's many people that are not losing rights right now yet, or threatened like others, are here standing up for everyone else.
The demonstrations held in over a dozen cities call for justice, unity, and civil rights protections. Congressman Andy Ogles in Nashville, Tennessee is calling for a federal probe into Belmont University over leaked videos showing a staffer discussing renaming its DEI office. Ogles says that violates a Trump order banning DEI in schools. Belmont denies wrongdoing, calling the video misleading. And Damian Lillard is heading back to Portland. The 9-time All-Star has signed a 3-year, $42 million deal with the Trailblazers. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today? Join at thinkitup.org.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Major League Baseball season resumes today after the All-Star break. The Dodgers are at home tonight against Milwaukee. The Angels are at Philadelphia. The Detroit Tigers open the second half of the season with the best record in baseball at 59-38. The Dodgers have the second best record at 58-39. Chargers wide receiver Mike Williams announced his retirement. The 30-year-old Williams played 7 of his 8 NFL seasons with the Chargers. Williams was struggling to recover from an undisclosed injury from last season. Cleveland Browns rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders hosted a community festival at an apartment complex in Cleveland that was damaged by an explosion and fire on June 23rd. More than 40 residents had to move. 1 person was killed. Deion's son put together the festival that included free food, haircuts, and games for kids in the area. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With the KBLA Talk 1580 guest editorial, I'm Martin Gordon, chair of the Pasadena Community Coalition. Recently, I listened to a Tavis Smiley show conversation with James Farr. At one point, James said something that caught me off guard. Not because it wasn't true, but because it is. Black Altadena is gone. I know it may seem stupid and non-productive, but I stopped in that moment listening to Tavis and James. I broke down and cried. In the back of my mind, I told myself we can bring it back like it was. But James Farr's reality check hit me like a ton of bricks. My community is being murdered. I said murdered, not by the Altadena Eaton Canyon fire, but by the people we elect to protect us, and by greedy and gatekeeping nonprofits who cannot see the forest for the trees. For the first time since the fire, I truly feel and understand my wife's inconsolable pain. Because I'm struggling to find a path to recovery and at least some form of normalcy. My community is crumbling right in front of my face. Lack of funding to rebuild is slowly destroying us. Many of us can no longer hold out, and developers are gobbling up our property. When I hear voices like Tavis Smiley and James Farr speak truth to power on KBLA Talk 1580, it reminds me that we're not crazy, just unheard. Make no mistake here, KBLA delegation, this is war, and we the people of Black Altadena are losing. It's like waiting for reparations. Not gonna happen, brother. In this new orange man world, no one, no entity is persuaded by right or wrong. There is no consequence for doing the wrong thing and no accolades or support for doing the right thing. Will war-torn Black Altadena survive? Your guess is as good as mine. But what have I got to lose? I'm in my 70s and don't have time to wait. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once suggested that riots break out when people have no hope. But there's nothing left to burn down in Altadena. I wish I could say I remain hopeful that my beloved community will rise again like a phoenix from the ashes. I wish I could. With a KBLA Talk 1580 guest editorial, I'm Martin Gordon, chair of the Pasadena Community Coalition. Pasadena Community Coalition at gmail.com. Reach out to me. As always, we welcome your feedback.
Hello, this is Dr. Rosa Milligan, self-appointed mayor of South Central LA. Attention business owners, protect your family now. Your business should never bankrupt your family. Form an LLC now. Register for my Zoom seminar at mytechacademy.net or call 213-878-4742.
In today's Sue Happy society, one lawsuit could wipe out your home, money, investments, even the inheritance meant for your grandchildren. But there's good news. An LLC protects your personal assets and your legacy. It's the shield every smart business owner needs. Register now for Dr. Rosie's powerful seminar at mytechacademy.net or call directly at 213-878-4742.
As an experienced business consultant, I will help you set it up right the first time. Visit mytechacademy.net. Call me 213-878-4742. Protect your family. Secure your legacy. Form your LLC today.
Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio. KBLA Talk 1580.
Sheila Bates is my guest. She's with Black Lives Matter, California, and she's also a policy advocate for them, an organizer with BLM LA. A lot of stuff, kind of developments on reparations nationally and internationally that I'd like to run by you. But I wanted to point out there's a Harvard study that says the U.S. is very well positioned to distribute, disperse, and actually effectuate reparations because they've done it so many times for so many different things, from everything from farmers, people harmed by pollution, Japanese Americans, pretty much everyone except for descendants of enslaved persons. Now, headline today is that there will be expanded reparations 80 years after the fallout from nuclear testing in New Mexico. There's a bunch of people that now become eligible for reparations for that harm because of it's something that was in the Republican spending bill that expanded the eligibility for reparations for the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act. So I just say that to give yet another example of folks being given reparations long after the fact, and it's being done without a peep of protest. Well, we didn't bomb those. Mm-hmm. We didn't bomb those folks. We didn't nuclear test those folks. Why should we have to pay it?
Mm-hmm. No, that's absolutely right. And we also have to remember, too, that, you know, who was given reparations over slavery was white folks.
Yeah.
Right? That Black people were not given reparations. You know, I remember as a kid, my father making comments about 40 acres and a mule, right? That hasn't been done. If reparations has been discussed and has never been actualized for centuries, and that is a debt that is owed, and it's a debt that is owed not only in this country but worldwide, because we know that slavery has been a global issue and that reparations are owed globally. And we as Black Lives Matter recognize that it is not just an issue that's here in this country, in the United States, in unceded territory of Indigenous people that was on land that was from Indigenous people that was built by Black people. Reparations aren't just owed here. Reparations are owed globally in every corner of the world wherein that slavery has taken a hold and that it continues to be a harm that is we can see to this day direct ties from what happened hundreds of years ago to now, and the fact that this has not been addressed by and large on a global scale, and that it absolutely needs to be.
So Jamaica, speaking of globally, and I think that is an important thing to know. We talk about reparations owed by cities, by states, by counties, by private industry, by the federal government, by educational institutions, religious organizations. Those are all separate claims, and I think they're all legit. But it's important for folks to understand that if Jamaica is asking for reparations, they're not asking the United States. They're asking Britain because that was their colonizer. Now, the Jamaicans are taking a different approach. They have a petition directly to King Charles of England about reparations. They are asking Charles to use his authority to request legal advice from the Judicial Committee of the London-based Privy Council as to whether or not slavery was even legal. They have been backed by the entire Caribbean community, CARICOM, which is 20 different member states from the Caribbean that are looking for reparations from mostly Britain, who was the enslaver that took people from there and also colonized and took resources from there. They are looking for a ruling from the courts. We haven't had good luck with that here in this country, which is one of the reasons why it's shifted to the legislative branch. But they're saying if that petition is successful, it would automatically mean the UK has a legal obligation to provide reparations to Jamaicans and the country itself of Jamaica.
I mean, yes, there is a legal, moral, ethical, and historical grounds for reparations in Jamaica and around the world. And it's something that we can't fully move forward, and we can't continue to wonder why things are happening and playing out the way that they are without addressing the original harm that was done. And it's not even just the original harm of slavery, and we can see this around the world. It's that continued legacy that exists through every system, right? We can see, you've named them, right, around education. And it's not even just educational institutions in this country or around the world as individuals, but it's also the system at large, wherein that we can see how there is the school to prison pipeline, right? We can also see it in also the medical field and in medical institutions, right? We see that the entire field of gynecology, and we can see direct ties to that with slavery, right? The mothers of gynecology were absolutely tortured to create a field of science when they did not give consent.
Yeah.
And when they were, it was not medically or ethical, it was not medically or morally ethical for them to do what they did. We see that with Henrietta Lacks, right? And we see that with so many things embedded in every single system. We see it with the child welfare system, and I say that in quotation marks, where in that they have always separated Black families, and we see that continue to happen within the Department of Family and Services, right? So it's something that has to be addressed at a global scale and in every single institution that exists worldwide.
Yeah, it's easy. It's important to go broad and also look at specifics at the same time. Molly Bell says, I was asked what they're going to do with the money. I don't know what she means. Do you, Sheila? She also says, without reparations, what is Juneteenth? Fair question. So I'm not sure what you mean by that, Molly Bell. I must have not really heard that question, so maybe you can either call or put it back in the chat. But similar to how Isaac Bryan's bill around education, AB 7, would create a precedent where this definition of a group, an eligible group, right, which is descendants of enslaved persons, applies to admission to California universities, certain California universities, that could then, if it was challenged in court, as you said, when we win, then that can apply to every other aspect of life. I think the same is true with this petition to King Charles to go to the Privy Council, because if they were to rule, and I know it's highly unlikely, but if they were to rule that slavery was not ever legal, then Antigua, Barbuda, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, basically that would apply to every British colony where people were enslaved, correct?
That's correct.
So they're one of the reasons CARICOM is backing this is because just as Assemblymember Bryan is trying to create a precedent, also they are trying to do that in England. And it's interesting that some folks are pointing to Clarence Thomas in one of his opinions where he said that in the Student for Fair Admissions case, he argued that the laws passed by Congress around the time of the 14th Amendment and the establishment of the Freedmen's Bureau were race neutral. He said that. So if that's the case, then how can Isaac Bryan's bill be considered a proxy for race if in fact there's no language on race in the bill and it is race neutral? If you could prove that you were the descendant of enslaved persons in this country and you were white or Chinese or Tongan, you would still be eligible. Is correct?
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. And it's really using that precedent that was set by the Supreme Court and by Thomas around making sure that that was the whole intention, right? And that they can try to come for it, and then they can face the full weight of the California state government when we pass this bill, and then when this California state government has to then defend this bill. And we hope that it does lay the groundwork so that we can usher in reparations and justice, a semblance of justice through that.
Here's a little breaking news that I even missed. The New York Episcopalian Diocese has launched a $1 million racial reparations fund. That's what they're calling it. This is as of day before yesterday. They're going to dedicate $1 million to racial reparations efforts within and outside the church. They made the announcement on Juneteenth, but this has been recently confirmed, and it is part of their what they call the Moses Commission, which is going to launch within 6 months. The aim is to grant funds and loan forgiveness programs for congregations of color. Now, they don't just say black, but they are also saying they will consider ways to make direct payments to descendants of slaves inspired by projects that were advanced by other dioceses. Thoughts?
Yeah, I had not heard that, so thank you for that breaking news. And, that is another institution wherein that we have absolutely seen harms done from slavery and from the legacies of slavery. And so I'm glad to hear that that's moving forward and they're doing something. And I also do find it interesting that they also absolutely said race. Because we do have to name it for what it is. It is race, and it is the lineage. And, I know that we need to be very mindful of the way that we say things for legal reasons. But I do think it's interesting and telling that they did flat out use the word race.
Well, they're a religious institution. They can do whatever they want. They don't have to stand up to strict scrutiny in the courts. They can do and say what they want. They had their own reparations committee. And that goes way back, I think, to 2006. And then they decided that they wanted to do this. But as I said, if you go back to Charles Ogletree and other attempts by descendants or black people or whatever, freedmen, ADOS, FBA, whatever you want to call them, they failed in the courts so far, and that's one of the reasons why we went to legislative efforts. And now we know that those legislative efforts are going to be challenged and are being challenged in the case of Evanston in the courts. So looking to navigate a way, whatever you call it, to get the repair, I think is really important. And we see these really creative and innovative approaches. The Jamaicans saying, hey, we want the Privy Council to say that slavery was never really legal. That's a novel approach. Isaac Bryan is saying, hey, we want these benefits to go to descendants of enslaved persons, regardless of race. That's an important approach. That's why I don't understand why the lineage folks are not supporting this, because to me, it's testing the theory that we have been putting forth in the state of California and beyond to do, lineage-based reparations. In any case, it's moving, and to your point, the contrast to that is the Episcopalians saying, "Look, we got $1 million on it, and we're calling it race." And that whatever happens, that's $1 million more moved towards justice. So I look at that as a win. We're talking with Sheila Bates. You're welcome to get in the conversation, 800-920-1580. Next hour, we're opening up the phone lines. It is a Freedmen Friday around here on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Catch Prep is now enrolling for summer credit recovery in fall 2025. As South Los Angeles' top-performing high school in English, math, and college access, Catch Prep is welcoming all 9th through 12th graders to enroll now. Catch Prep offers a small, supportive, and safe learning environment to help all students succeed, so that all students feel valued, respected, and motivated to reach their full potential. For the past 20 years, Catch Prep has helped more students of color gain admission to top-tier universities, with our graduating seniors earning a total of $3 million in scholarships, more than any other school in Los Angeles. We are dedicated to helping all students turn your college dreams into reality. Catch Prep is now enrolling. Visit us online at catchhighschool.com or call 323-293-3917. Space is limited. Please enroll now for summer credit recovery and fall 2025. Call 323-293-3917 or enroll today at catchhighschool.com. The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Worried about eviction? You have rights, and Stay Housed LA can help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between LA County, the City of Los Angeles, and local service providers. From Lancaster to Long Beach, we're here to help you with tenant education workshops, legal clinics, free legal services for eligible tenants, and online resources about tenant protection laws. Don't face eviction alone. Call our hotline at 1-888-694-0040. That's 1-888-694-0040. Or visit stayhousedla.org. Stay Housed LA, keeping Los Angeles residents in their homes. Stay Housed LA, your rights, your home, our community. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
Talking with Sheila Bates, policy advocate and organizer with Black Lives Matter California, BLM LA. And let's talk about France. We're rounding up this Freedmen Friday update. There's a letter that came from France to Niger. where they're acknowledging some of the harms done there in Niger. They have not apologized. They have not agreed to reparations, but they have agreed to talk. It's interesting this is happening while the anti-French sentiment in West Africa is at a boiling point with what's happening in Burkina Faso and the Sahel states, basically kicking the French out. The African Union has labeled 2025 the year of reparations, and the findings about this particular incident in Niger are going to be presented to the UN. They're going to be included in the UN Rights Report and presented to the General Assembly in October. So France sort of moving very slowly to start acknowledging some of the harms that they have done in Africa, particularly in West Africa. And I wonder if that has something to do with the pressure from Burkina Faso and the Sahel states, or if it's just the result of decades and decades of lobbying and organizing by African reparations advocates.
I mean, that is a great question, and I think it is a lot of those things that you mentioned, and I think it's also, great that they're finally in talks, hundreds of years later, but those talks need to actualize into things that matter to people on the ground and to the people who were harmed and to I can't address it to the people who were harmed, but to their future generations, they can absolutely do it, right? And that those reparations are owed there. And it's not just having talks. It's not just an acknowledgement. And yes, give the apology, but it's not just the apology. It's also make actual amends and repair for what happened and what they were absolutely responsible for. And so, I'm glad to hear that some of this is moving forward, and it's past time. So go ahead and add interest.
Yeah, really. Well, the letter says France remains open to bilateral dialogue with authorities from Niger, as well as collaboration concerning provenance research or patrimonial contribution. This is, again, in response to a letter coming from the UN based on a complaint by 4 different communities in Niger who are representing descendants of victims of the 1899 Mission Afrique Centrale, which was part of France's campaign to make Niger a French colony. So this is actually appears to be a lineage-based claim coming from Africa.
And it's owed. It's owed. And, it's the legacy of colonization around the world and that direct ties to that and slavery it's past time that we address these harms. It's past time that not we, because we didn't do it, that they, right, that we are the people who are, you and I both, and a lot of our listeners are people who it's owed to, right, that they absolutely, it's past time. This is a debt that was owed to our ancestors, and that we know that there were several stops along the route where some of us ended up here in the United States, and that there are reparations that are owed point blank, period, globally. And so, yes, France needs to run them the check, and let that, I don't want to determine for Niger what that looks like, right? That's not on me to determine. That I hope that they get what's owed to them. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting. I wonder if there is, if the African Union and some of these folks, activists, are being influenced by what they're seeing in the U.S. with these lineage-based claims coming from California, coming across the country, and whether that, these conversations are looking at novel approaches to use not just here in the United States, but whether those could spread internationally as well.
Yeah, I mean, because I hope that they not only learn from some of the processes that we're doing, but some of our successes and some of our failures, because we haven't gotten it right. And we're trying our best, and, its lineage. And I really hope that they can learn from some of what we've done. And I hope that there is a lot of cross-pollination that's happening and that people are talking to each other. And I'm sure that they are. And that we can learn from some of what they're doing and we can bring some of that over here, because this is a global issue. And I hope that we are able to discuss it and be able to learn from each other. And I know that we absolutely try our best to do so. And I hope that we're able to learn from each other to be able to actually fight against systems that have harmed all of us around the world, and that we're able to rise up and we're able to win, because it's a debt that's owed to our ancestors.
Tell us where to follow you, Sheila.
You can follow us at BLM Grassroots on all social media platforms. So I'm the policy coordinator with Black Lives Matter Grassroots, so make sure that you follow us on also social media platforms at BLM Grassroots. Also, you can sign up for text messages from us. We do not send out a lot of text messages, but we'd love to be able to get in touch with people, and they can sign up for text messages by going to tinyurl.com/BLM Grassroots text. Additionally, you can follow us as Black Lives Matter Los Angeles on IG at BLM Los Angeles, and on other social media platforms at BLM LA. And also you can find us in these streets every Wednesday at 210 West Temple at the Hall of Injustice, and on the second Sunday of the month at our monthly organizing meetings at 3423 West 43rd Street, 43rd Place.
Gotta leave it there. We're up against the clock. Sheila Bates, thank you so much.
Thank you.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Protesters rallied Thursday in Good Trouble Lives On marches honoring civil rights icon John Lewis. Kim Combs of Grand Rapids, Michigan was among those who took part.
There's many people that are not losing rights right now yet, or threatened like others, are here standing up for everyone else.
The demonstrations, held in over a dozen cities, call for justice, unity, and civil rights protections. Congressman Andy Ogles in Nashville, Tennessee, is calling for a federal probe into Belmont University over leaked videos showing a staffer discussing renaming its DEI office. Ogles says that violates a Trump order banning DEI in schools. Belmont denies wrongdoing, calling the video misleading. And Damian Lillard is heading back to Portland. The 9-time All-Star has signed a 3-year,